Coming to you from Strings and Things Studio in Ventura, California, I'm Anne.
I'm Karin.
I'm Kaity.
And this is the Strings Unraveled Book Club.
All right.
Hi, kids.
Hello,
Hey.
everybody. Happy March.
Well, today is the beginning of Purim, if that's your thing. And then tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day,
Woohoo.
if that's your thing.
I know it's your thing.
But we had corned beef tonight.
Oh, I'm having mine tomorrow.
I'm busy tomorrow, so I had to make it tonight.
Same. But we're not having corned beef because Kevin has been experimenting with corned beef, so I've had it a couple times already this year. He's not doing a great job with his pastrami, but he's really trying.
Oh, I do love pastrami, though.
I love pastrami. This time the flavor was great, but the texture was
not so great.
Difficult.
Okay.
So we just finished a book called The Sanatorium by Sarah Pearse. I think I can predict the feelings about these books.
Okay.
What do you think of this book, Kaity?
I thought it was fine.
Oh.
I
thought you'd have more to say about not liking it.
No, I did not like it. I enjoyed it, but I found it to be kind of tedious and slow. But I enjoyed it in general. I don't have any major problems with it.
All right. Okay. Surprise. Paint me surprised. And I figured Karin would like it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But I agree. The beginning was like, oh my God, is someone going to die already so I can figure this out?
Yeah.
I know someone... Where's the crazy? We're in it,
Exposition.
and then finally it picked up.
Yeah.
Well, then we find out that Ellen is extremely crazy, which if my mom spelled my name that way, I would be too.
Everybody has such a weird name in this book, too. I'm like, nobody has
Will you
a normal
spell it
name.
so the readers know?
Elin, which I didn't know because I was only listening to it. Because I was going to physically read the book, and then I just kept running out of time. So there's a nearly pristine copy to be passed around. So synopsis here. Half hidden by forest and overshadowed by threatening peaks, Les Sommets has always been a sinister place. Long plagued by troubling rumors, the former abandoned sanatorium has since been renovated into a 5-star minimalist hotel. An imposing, isolated getaway spot high up in the Swiss Alps is the last place Ellen Warner wants to be. But Ellen's taken time off from her job as a detective, so when her estranged brother Isaac and his fiancée Laure invite her to celebrate their engagement at the hotel, Ellen really has no reason not to accept. Arriving in the midst of a threatening storm, Ellen immediately feels on edge. There's something about the hotel that makes her nervous. And when they wake the following morning to discover Laure is missing, Ellen must trust her instincts if they hope to find her. With the storm closing off all the access to the hotel, the longer Laure stays missing, the more the remaining guests start to panic. Ellen is under pressure to find Laure, but no one has realized yet that another woman has gone missing, and she's the only one who could have warned them just how much danger they are all in.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, seriously, there are 3, there's an ellipsis at the end of that.
Oh, literally, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Is that what dun 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 means?
I don't know, in my mind it does.
It totally makes sense. I did not know that. I've gotten educated again.
I'm just making that up.
I could totally see this book being produced by the BBC.
Oh, totally.
And just a slow burn, limited series. And I would watch the heck out of that. I'm ready for this girl's next novel, but it's not. The audiobook is not out till July, and I'm like, that's a lot of faith to put in.
Is the Kindle book also on waiting till before July? Because
I don't know. I just went to the audiobook pre-order. And I'm like, there's a lot of things I want to listen to between here and there.
I just put it on my watch list.
Yeah.
I don't think I would read another. I would go out of my way to read another by this author.
That's fair.
I thought it was fine. There were parts of it that I was like, well, why aren't we talking about that? Or why isn't that a part of the story? Or I thought it would. So I thought it would have been they're there for the engagement party, right?
Yeah.
And there are supposedly other guests.
Coming.
Right, but the hotel is full of other people.
Yes.
And I think it would have been a lot more interesting if we knew more about the other people that were there.
Yeah.
except just knowing that, they were interviewed and their whereabouts and stuff. I don't know. I was like, there's 4, 5, 6 main characters, but there's like 25 people or something that are still stuck at the hotel. I'm like, well, that could have been interesting, like the dynamic of like being trapped there.
Mm-hmm. And well, the idea that there's that it would only be employees of the hotel that were the perpetrators too. That was a bit of a plot hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just took a long time for anything to happen.
I wanted more of the gory details of like the bad things that happened at the sanatorium.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you get the reveal of like what was going on, but it sort of happens right at the end, and like we don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah, like I would have liked one of the fanatical characters to maybe speak a little bit more about it instead of being cagey and then murdered.
Right.
I loved the way she set scenes though. And like carried you through a scene. I'm not one for action, like written or on the screen, honestly. Like when we read the serial killer book and the whole thing's happening in the lake.
Oh yeah,
I got lost.
Yes.
It was exciting and scary.
Can you give an example of what you mean? Like, are you talking about the way that it's visually set up and described? I mean, give us an example of a scene.
I think she goes out into the snow by herself, and they're talking about like the texture of the snow, the sounds.
Yeah.
And like if I felt like I was out walking in the woods with her.
She does a really good job, I feel like, of setting the scene.
Yeah.
And like you can picture things easily.
Yes.
And it's like you were mentioning with that other book, it's like I'm lost. I don't know what I'm supposed to be picturing right now. I didn't have that happen to me in this book either.
I felt super present.
I understood why no one could see the body in the pool because the steam coming off of it, because she described the steam coming off it kind of blinding. For all you know, you might have even walked into the pool because there's just so much between the cold and the steam.
Also, every time that she took time to describe the anxiety that Ellen felt with the vast windows and like what you could see out the window, those were very like crystalline moments.
Yeah. I do think this would make a good translation to film, either like a miniseries or a movie or something. I think she did a good job in explaining, like you were mentioning, but also like Ellen's like visions and like flashbacks and things like that. It seems well set up to be translated into film.
I have a bone to pick with the character development too. Like I don't know if I would have liked a broader exposure to the other people present, or just like the boyfriend is very cardboard to me.
He's
there's
so not a lot going on.
Important to Ellen.
I was almost expecting him to be a bad guy.
For a second, I thought about him.
We don't really know a whole lot about why he's there or who he is or what his deal is.
I did expect it to be connected to Ellen in some way.
Yeah.
And yet it was not.
Yeah.
He seemed to be a character that was like, he wanted to be close to her, but he didn't really want to understand why she was the way she was. He just wanted to be close to her and for her to be like his family and just work through and get over things.
Yeah.
And he wasn't particularly an understanding boyfriend.
Well, I think he was to his ability that we know of him.
It seemed to me like Ellen was a relatively difficult person to be with.
Yeah.
And I don't quite understand why he wanted to be with her so badly.
Yeah.
You know, like why he was so adamant about them moving in together and like, I mean, I'm not going to judge this fake relationship and these fake people, but I'm like, I don't know what you see in this woman.
But nobody knows that.
No,
I don't even exactly know that about our partners.
That's true.
You know, like, why, Kevin? Why do you keep showing up? Thank you, but why? He gets offended when I ask. Okay. The hotel at the heart of the novel, Les Sommets, was converted from a tuberculosis sanatorium. How do the building's history and design shape the narrative? Would you choose to stay in a hotel with a history like Les Sommets? Why or why not? So, first part, how does it shape the narrative? Well, it's the whole point of why people are being murdered.
That's the whole point of the whole mystery is why is this happening? And then I felt like not Ellen was dumb, but like she all of a sudden was like, wait a minute, this has to do with the medical history of it. It's like, well, no, duh. They're wearing masks. Like it's very clinical.
Yeah.
It took her to 75% through the book to be like, wait a minute, maybe I should think about this aspect of it. It's
right.
Like, I think that's probably the whole thing, lady.
I think that is probably kind of true to, like, how a real police investigator thinks, though.
Maybe.
I think that they do tend to, like, go with horse hooves before zebras.
Yeah, probably.
And most of life is not, there's some grand plot to
exactly.
avenge,
It's not some crazy murder plot revenge thing. Yeah, you're right.
I would not stay in a place like Waysome.
No.
I'm sickly fascinated by it, but I think that traumas like that, even if it didn't have the, like, accusation of torture and
right, it wasn't
medical
necessarily a traumatic place with what it was supposed to have been.
No, it was. I think that, like, medical treatments from that time frame, people get misused.
The way they frame it,
yeah,
the hotel frames it is like, they came here for the beautiful fresh air and scenery.
Yeah.
Like, in that frame, yes, it's a fine place and that sounds lovely. I would also like to enjoy the fresh air and scenery, but that's not what was actually happening, we find out.
Like, Hotel California, i.e. Channel Islands.
Right.
Like, that was a lovely camp.
Right.
But that place is haunted as anything
Okay. Can I say something about that? Okay, when my oldest, we were looking for schools for him to go to, and we did like a little campus drive there. And I don't get into mystical, creepy stuff. I will tell you, the vibes were so bad.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, back then there was just the art thing, but you could see kind of where people might have been chained up or something. It had the darkest, creepiest vibe. Yeah. We could not wait to get out of there.
There's a stairwell I went
all
down.
Of us felt it. It was creepy.
There's a stairwell I went down one time with Kevin, because that's where he got his teaching credential, and I'd go there late at night, and we'd play Frisbee on the quad with
Oh my God, how could you do that?
Well, I think the Frisbee, like, went down that way, or maybe that's where a bathroom was or something. As fast as I could. Just get out of there.
It's lost.
Just
sorry. Building 8 the Frisbee.
Yeah, right. No Frisbee no more. And then there's a show, I think it's called Carnival, from, like, the early 2000s. It was an HBO show. I think you can still stream it. And it's about, like, Dust Bowl times in California. And there's this, but also, like, an apocalyptic thing. It never got to finish its narrative. But there's this, like, crazy preacher who gets committed there while it's a mental hospital. And so their main hall, we were thinking about having our wedding there.
Was it filmed there?
Yeah. Oh, so the main, because it's set, like, literally there.
I think I saw that
and
part.
They filmed it. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
so that main hall they had done up, like, as a day room, and the creepy minister, in the plot is creepy, and then there's all these poor misused people with mental illness who are wandering around the day room. It's so. So we decided not to have our wedding there.
Yeah, bad vibes for a wedding.
So no, I would not stay at Les Sommets. I would like to, like, maybe visit it as a day trip and full daylight.
I'd like to go to the Swiss Alps, but maybe not there.
Well, so
my other question is, why in the hell are you having your anniversary or your engagement party in January in the mountains where there's avalanches?
Right.
Well, because she worked there.
Yeah.
Because
the girlfriend. But why not put it off till March, April, some lovely time in the spring? Why are you making all these people go up there in the dead of winter?
Well,
because it's spooky.
Go ahead.
Let's say the avalanche thing was covered up as part of the bribe stuff.
Oh, that's right.
It was, like, a known avalanche place, and he, like,
that's true.
covered that up.
She really wasn't that committed. She was kind of cheating on him and hoping for something better while she was engaged to this guy. So.
She wasn't cheating on him then.
Oh, they were separated then. That's right. They were briefly separated. That's right.
Yeah.
They weren't together at that moment. That's right.
We were on a break. I believe that's how the line goes. So I have not been exactly to here, but this was sort of the place that my friend's wedding was in Switzerland. So then it was kind of cool to, like, hear my ears prick of places that we were around, like Chamonix, which when a French speaker is saying Chamonix, it sounds a lot like Germany. So we're in a car coming back from a long day out, and Kevin's being chatty with the driver, and he says that he's from Chamonix, but Kevin hears Germany, and he's like, so where's a good place to get German food around here? And this is the part of Switzerland that speaks French and touches France. nowhere.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know, go to Germany. And I mean, I know Kevin didn't hear him right, so I'm sitting in the back seat like,
you didn't even try to correct it.
Well, we were very tired.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you just can't keep someone from falling on their face. You just gotta let it slow-mo happen. How do you think the remote alpine setting helps to heighten the sense of claustrophobia and isolation both within the novel and within Ellen's own mind? Well, they're isolated.
Yeah, they're literally trapped.
She has no help coming. It was chilling when she's talking to the Swiss police officer, and she can tell.
That's pretty scary.
When a professional can't hide
your only hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no one coming to help you.
Yeah, and it's there's an avalanche. Like you can't go anywhere. Like you're literally trapped. It's very spooky. I mean, it sounds like a beautiful place to be trapped, but still you're trapped.
It's a weird juxtaposition in that you're at this hotel and you can see wide open spaces, but if you wanted to, but you're still stuck there. Yeah, it's just a weird sensation.
Can I complain about something I just thought about?
Yeah.
At the very end of the book, they talk about how Laura was in the outbuilding this whole time. That's where she was hiding. It's like, no one of you thought, let's check the outbuilding. And even there were people there that knew it existed.
Isaac knew it existed. He's like, I could have just walked over and opened the door. Why didn't anybody check
that building right there? It was like, really, that's where she was this whole time?
Wouldn't that be the first place you would check?
Well,
I don't care.
I thought that what's her face?
They didn't check for her at all.
Yeah, the bad girl. What is her name? Is it Celeste? Celia?
No.
I thought it was Celine. No.
Cecile.
Cecile, yes.
Okay.
There it is.
I thought that Cecile had just taken her, just like she took what is her name? Audrey?
No, the housekeeper lady.
Yeah, Andrea?
Nope. I listened
it's
to
not
it,
in
so
the
I don't
questions.
have the picture. Yeah.
It's not in the questions.
And
the book is in the car.
So everybody has a weird name, so it's not... Well, whoever. Yeah, she wasn't...
I'll look at the content. They
didn't have her held somewhere. She just was hiding.
She was just hiding.
Somewhere.
They're never gonna find me.
It's like, okay, that's a weird thing to put in right at the end of the book.
I have to say I don't like the wrap up. Like I'm intrigued about who's watching her on the train.
Oh yeah, I did like that.
That's why I'm looking forward to the new book.
That did intrigue me. I was like, who's that going to be? I'll just have you listen or read it,
and I'll just tell you. Yeah, it's her old boyfriend. Because she does mention like something about a bad relationship before the one she's in, and getting rid of him was hard.
And maybe she didn't really get rid of him.
Right. That's what I kind of wanted the killer to be. Like, I'm a little disappointed
to Ellen in some way
that he followed her and was creating all this mayhem.
Yeah.
Not that it was one of the hotel runners, because for a second when we think it is what's his face?
Oh, Luca.
Yeah, when we think it's Luca and he's run off and locked her in the building, I'm like, oh,
yeah, I was like, well, duh.
It's the creepy, I'm so perfect.
My theory about them was that they have the same last name, and she goes out of her way to be like, we're brother and sister, and she's like, yeah, I got that. Like, I was like, that's weird. And then it was like, something's off about those two. I was like, ooh, maybe they're married. Maybe they're like,
You've just written a better book.
Yeah, well, I was like, maybe it's like some secret. I don't know why they're hiding the fact that they're married. They're pretending to be brother and sister, but I was like, oh, okay, I guess they're just brother and sister. I was thinking about like the White Stripes,
Yes, yeah. Just keeping it hidden.
Yep.
Why did Ellen decide to accept Isaac's invitation to the engagement party despite being estranged? I mean, she did it because she thought she was going to corner him into confessing that he killed their brother, when in fact it was always just an accident that she misremembered.
But he acts like such an ass that I really was disappointed that it wasn't him.
Well, I mean,
it would have been too easy, I guess.
But the reason why you think he's an ass is because you're seeing it from Ellen's perspective. But if you were in Isaac's shoes, you probably wouldn't feel very warmly to your sister either if you were estranged from her because, she
hurt somebody.
Well, she didn't hurt somebody, but she didn't help.
Yeah.
Oh.
She was...
And, their mother, separated from them because of Ellen in their mother's eyes. So if you were Isaac, you would probably not feel really warmly to your sister either, I would guess. But we don't know that at the beginning. So you're like, well, he's got to be a bad guy.
Look at him. He's lying about his job.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really expect...
His girlfriend has 2 phones. What's up with that? That was shady.
Yes. But that was her. That wasn't him.
I did like that, like, pivot that it made them both more dynamic. Yeah. That Isaac was redeemable and that that Ellen was more flawed. Because, I mean, Ellen is very flawed.
Oh,
the whole time she's like, I shouldn't go here on my own. Yeah.
I shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay, that bugged me. Like, I mean, she was trained as a police officer.
Yeah, but there's a reason they have partners.
Yeah.
You don't go into those situations
But on the other hand, she is trained for that. She is the only one, and the police are not going to come. So...
But you could have gotten someone to help you.
She
could have texted your boyfriend and said, I'm going to go here just so you know where I am.
That would be a good safe behavior.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Be like, hey, just so you know, I'm going up to this hotel room. You can't come with me because of this specific reason. And he could have stood outside the door.
And not after you found your friend's dead body.
Right.
Okay. But this is the same boyfriend that treated her like she was she wasn't well, and he was gaslighting her quite a lot. I thought.
I didn't see that.
I thought that he was like getting frustrated for her a lot,
Yeah, but I don't think that's gaslighting. Gaslighting is when you tell someone that the reality is not real, and then you switch a different reality for them.
I saw him being more encouraging. I don't think he knew how to help her.
Yes.
Because he's like,
I can hear that.
Aren't you over this? Aren't we past this? Like, he wants her to move forward and
like
move past
all
it,
of
but
society.
He doesn't know how to help her get there.
Grief is over.
Right.
Move on.
You're done now. Aren't you done? We should be done.
But the only thing I worry about for her too, though, is like when she did switch into work mode and turn on, he was like, "Oh, you're working so much."
Well, yeah.
Like, okay, dude.
Yeah, I didn't really get a whole lot from... What was his name? William? Yeah, I didn't get a whole lot from him.
No. So if they cast it, he has to be very hot to make up for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hot and boring.
Yes, that's fine.
That's okay. I'm trying to find characters, and this one thing I found.
Adele. Her name's Adele.
There it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, because it doesn't tell me characters, but it talks about symbols and objects.
Ooh. All right. Okay. We'll do that in a second because I have a dumb question. I just want to read you this question because I hate it so much.
Okay.
In order to solve the case, Ellen must overcome her fear of water and learn how to control her. This is from the. I believe this is from the publisher.
Okay.
In order to solve the case, Ellen must overcome her fear of water and learn how to control her panic attacks. What advice would you give to someone who is struggling with a particular fear or anxiety and wants to move past it? You can't advise people out of their fear and anxiety.
Get over it. I'm like William in this. I'm like, let's just get over it. I don't know anything better than that.
If you're gonna give advice, you might as well be like William, because you can't advise someone out of it.
Right.
You can give them like practical tactics to exit their anxiety.
You could advise them to see a professional. That's what I would do.
There you go.
I'm not a professional, but I'd advise that you maybe talk to one.
In a situation where I might have anxieties and fears and yet be cut off from the rest of the world because there's a murderer around and there's an avalanche, I might advise someone, let me be with you, and while you're panicking, I will be with you, and we will just kind of go through it together.
Yeah,
I'll hold space for you.
Yeah, that's about all I can do for you.
That's all. I can't help you through it, but at least if you walk through it, you're not walking through it alone, and then when you come to the other side, you might feel stronger. But I don't know, but at least don't go by yourself.
There are several strong female characters within the novel. I think it's debatable.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the choice of a female detective as the protagonist is important to the novel and the themes it covers?
So I will say that one of my main problems with it is that throughout the whole book, in the whole narrative, and you're hearing what Ellen is saying to herself in her head and her self-talk, and it's all so negative, and she feels like she's an imposter and she's not good enough, she can't do this, I'm not qualified, I'm out of my element. You hear her talk negatively about how she is terrible at what she's doing throughout the whole thing. And at the end, in the climax of the book, I was really hoping that her solving the mystery and being the one to figure out what exactly is going on, to stop the killer, that she was going to have a moment of like celebration and saying, look at me, I did it, I am good enough, I am strong enough. But the best we got was like, I guess I'll go back to work. It's like,
don't you think that's realistic though? Like,
yeah, but it's a book. It was so negative that I really wanted it to be about like a woman knowing that her own power and feeling good enough, and it's like that was a whole lot of negativity for her not to come back around at the end.
That was Cecile when she killed her rapist, and she killed
but
all these other people.
But that all happened right at the end. I didn't have a chance to really be invested in that storyline.
She killed all these innocent other women to punish her brother.
Right.
Wow.
Right. To justify.
That was so messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think she quite got her point across, which is exactly what she was worried about.
She murdered Daniel.
All these terrible things that happen to women. Well, I'm going to do the exact same thing and do terrible things to women.
She becomes the victimizer.
Yeah. Except for one man.
Yeah.
I actually felt her coming alive and starting to get more comfortable in her skin. Whether she got to a point of acknowledging it, I don't think she was there, because it really was just a long weekend. It wasn't that much time to overcome all your fears, but I did feel like she started to come alive. And her boyfriend even said, wow, I thought he made a remark of it, but what kind of bugged me was, instead of being happy for her, he kind of complained about it. I thought he wasn't happy that she was getting so. He saw her getting into this as an obsession, and I saw it as she is coming alive and getting into something that she is good at, whether she recognizes it or not. This is something she's good at, something she can do to get out of her own head of self-doubt.
Like, that's when I was like, you're complaining about her getting into this and committing to it.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want her to wallow. No. So she's not wallowing. No. She's doing something she's good at.
Yeah.
And that's where I thought he was gaslighting, because it's like, that's where I kind of saw it that way, but that's not the right word. But where she's finally getting out of her wallowing and doing something, and he's like,
hypocrite. I think that's
and then
hypocrisy.
It's like, what does he want? Do you want her to wallow, or do you want her to obsess?
Yeah.
But wouldn't you also be concerned about your partner being the sole detective in a murder mystery in a very secluded location? I'd be like, maybe we don't investigate. Maybe we just all sit in the dining room and nobody moves, and we wait for the cops to come. And nobody goes to the bathroom. We're in a pee in bucket. That would have been my solution. They talk a whole lot about like everybody needs to stay together.
Nobody did.
Nobody's staying together. People are all over the place.
So they said everybody was moving to first floor, and then they're talking about going upstairs. So then I remembered, like, oh, British people call the second. Right. It's the ground floor and the first floor. So that wasn't very good.
I did think that they did point that out, that, we just made it easier for the killer.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Oops, maybe that wasn't such a good idea.
Oopsie.
Yeah, I don't think Ellen needed to necessarily solve the mystery.
Whose idea was it to bring him to the first floor? Was that her idea, or was somebody else suggested, and she says, fine, let's go?
The detective guy that she was talking to.
Yeah, I can't remember for sure. But she was supposed to follow their directions.
Yeah.
Did you expect any of the reveals throughout the book? Did the ending surprise you? Why or why not? I think we kind of touched on this, but were there any other moments where you were like, oh? Like, I thought it was interesting what Adele turned out to be. That she turned out to be being paid off with her
job.
Housekeeping job.
And they did mention early on that, like, she's overqualified and I don't know why she's doing this job. And I didn't really think a whole lot about her because she was dead early on. So I kind of forgot that we should be thinking about what her whole role in this. I was expecting Lore to have more of a more of a role in the situation, because it ended up being she just knew too much, basically. And so we had to kill her. And it was like, well, she was kind of on to what was going on. it would have been interesting if she had like come back and like helped Ellen figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
the author killed her off too soon, I think. She could just. This is why I felt that. Sorry.
Well, they maybe took her out of the equation too soon.
Yes.
Yeah. I think her murder was good in the rising action, but like she's out of it too quickly.
Like we hardly know her for then to be such a major player in what's happening, because we met her once when they gave her the tour, and then she's disappeared. And then it's like, well, now we know all this backstory about her and Ellen and how they were childhood friends, and I would have liked to see more interaction between the two of them before she had disappeared and then died.
That's what I wanted to be. I wanted it to be Lucas and Lore plotting it all to like somehow somebody at the hotel was involved with Lore's mother's death, because it was like college students who ran her over, or something like that, right? So I wanted it to be this grand conspiracy where they're just going to get everybody that they hate. And that's why they needed Ellen there, because Isaac obviously hated his sister, obviously, until we find out otherwise.
It would have been more interesting if it were designed in a way to involve Ellen specifically.
Yeah.
But it was just coincidence that she was a detective and was there.
Murder, She Wrote. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing that was revealed, I thought it was very sensitive of the author when Adele is describing her attacker and her captor, and the author uses they and them, and I kept listening, like, are there two figures there, or is this a gender neutral pronoun on purpose? And then we find out there were two attackers.
Oh yeah, I didn't really think about that. I couldn't tell if there were actually two attackers or if it was just if it was Celeste or Cecile or whatever her name is and her like lackey.
Margot.
Right.
When we found out that Margot was a part of Adele's torture, I was like, oh, okay, those pronouns meant nothing.
Yeah.
That was them telling us there were two all along.
Well, I mean, it's an easy way to read it because it could have been a male or a female.
Yeah. Especially since it was Cecile, because she is a big, muscular woman.
I thought maybe it was intentional because they didn't want to give away the gender too soon. Does it bother anyone else that it's Margot? Because if that were truly French, it would be Margot. It would not be Margot.
Well, it's Swiss. I don't know if she's French.
Yeah, we don't know if she's French or German, because there's like a dividing line.
Yeah,
too.
I don't know.
So like in part of Switzerland, they have a German.
Is it Margot?
Orientation.
Is there a Margot in German?
I don't know.
Oh,
it didn't bother me. To answer your question,
5 years of French, just
If it weren't Margot, considering that they were at Les Sommets, if it weren't Margot, then wouldn't they say Margot?
They would say Margot
because it's Les Sommets. So her name must have been Margot.
Yeah, maybe she's like, no, that's not how you pronounce my name.
Well, the character reached up from the pages to the reader. So.
It would not be the first time that an audiobook got it wrong.
Yeah, that is fair. But I think that she has a German orientation to her, because of the history of her great grandmother being in a German institution.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Then being transferred to Les Sommets.
Didn't you find it was creepy that institution was still going?
Well, there's a lot of things that people have done to hurt the how do I want to say this? Hurt people who need protection, vulnerable people, that went on into forever. There are laws in the United States that support eugenics that have went on until the late 70s, 80s. We think we're moving so far forward, and we really are not.
During the last administration, that was happening in prisons. Was it in Texas or Alabama?
I would believe either.
Yeah, there was because I thought or
sterilization.
Forced sterilization. Yeah. So it's still happening.
I liked the twist in the reason why this was happening, and the whole aspect of the female hysteria thing.
Yeah.
And how it was all brutal and abuse perpetrated against these people that were really just admitted for being
in the way
or outspoken.
Yeah.
I wish that it had more.
I wanted a little more of that. Like, I would love to have like heard a little bit more of Margot's like journey of her hunt to avenge her.
It seemed like this was just a convenient reason why it happened. It was like, this was the reason, and you were like, okay.
One of the things that I didn't like was they talk about those crazy helicopters that take things on and off of the mountain. And she's like, if only there was another way to get up here.
Yeah, I'm like, get the crazy helicopter up there. And she's like, you really can't fly up here?
Why did you talk about the stupid helicopters earlier? Yeah. Like, why did you waste pages on that?
Because the storm was just going to shut him down anyway, I guess. But
I
felt like it was a page filler.
Yeah, well...
I mean, there wouldn't be a book without the reason that they're stuck there, so...
True. But why... Like... I feel like if you mention something, you need to call back to it, or it needs to move the story forward.
Yeah, why did we talk so much about the like search and rescue and the helicopters, and like that could have come into play at the end, like the cavalry's here, but
and then it's all of a sudden, okay, she's fighting in the pool, she gorges her. 5 weeks later, Cecile was arrested.
It was a pretty anticlimactic ending.
Yeah.
To a book that took a long time to get anything going. I was like, really?
When it's taking off and all of that closing action's happening, that's when I was like, yeah, I don't think you can listen to this book very fast. And you're like, oh no, 1.5 is not fast. And then I remembered, it is slow at the beginning, but at the end it's zip.
I listened to it at 1.5 for the whole thing until the very last chapter when she's talking to Isaac and it's like, we're winding down. I was like, I'll slow down and like listen, but like at the end I was like, okay. Yeah, it was tedious, I feel like.
I liked it enough that like she took me to this story enough that I'm interested to know more, because I want to know who's following her on the train.
Yeah.
The hotel pass touches on an uncomfortable subject, the suppression and control of women's lives and how people often choose to look the other way when faced with evidence. To what extent do you still think that is true today? All the time. Like, that is the American way. I mean, I know this is not a set in America, but
that's our experience, though.
Yeah. But it's like, I'll look at my phone, I'll ignore the terrible things that are happening in the world. You might not even do something about someone who's being abused right next to you.
Yeah.
I mean, our country is putting children in cages for nearly a decade, and it's not really stopping.
Right. Yeah, it's
that's our freshest sin.
That's true.
I was interested to know if this story was based on anything in the past. And I couldn't find anything about a Swiss sanatorium, but I easily found information about Indigenous children in Canada being experimented on in sanatoriums.
Yeah, and that's a recent thing, just the discovery of that.
Well, this is separate from the residential schools. This was in sanatoriums in Canada. So, I mean, same bad behavior, different place. It also, the article I was reading was tied to the residential schools, that if the kids were sick, especially with TB, they would send them to the sanatorium, and it was a web of keeping each other's numbers up and down and meeting their quotas. And then while I was Googling that, I came across a movie called The Cure for Wellness. It came out. Did you watch that?
No.
It came out in 2017.
Oh, wow.
I can't tell you it's a bad movie, but I also can't tell you it's a good movie.
Okay.
It's a movie about bad stuff?
It's a creepy sanatorium converted in the Swiss Alps. It looks like the village they go through looks exactly like the village that we stayed in for my friend's wedding. There was no sanatorium there.
That you know of.
That I know of, correct. So it's gorgeous, beautiful setting. Jason Isaacs, so an excellent, great actor. I'd love to see him play a nice guy someday.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
He's never played a nice guy. I think there's some newer movie out where it's something about two two sets of parents having like a restorative justice meeting about something. Like, I don't know if one of their children died or something. And he seems like maybe he's a nice guy in there. Okay. But I'll bet his kid's the one who hurt the other kid. But it was a lot. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride Through a Sanatorium.
Wow.
You have to rent it. I paid for the privilege of watching this movie. It had a $40 million budget and it grossed like $26 million.
Oy.
So yeah, not so good. Oy. But I mean,
I'd never heard of it.
It's an interesting movie. You're not going to expect what's coming.
Okay.
It was interesting. But it definitely like amplified the creepy vibes of this this book, which was what I was looking for from it, actually. And then to complement the story of a woman being taken advantage of, like her own brother knew it was happening, saw it with his eyes. I would give him the benefit of the doubt that in a sleepy mode, maybe he didn't process what he saw his friend doing to Cecile.
Or didn't process that it didn't look consensual. Maybe.
That too, yeah. I could give Luca the benefit of the doubt in that, but then
lying to their parents about
he had plenty of time to like support her and give credence to her claims.
It doesn't surprise me thinking about like a teenage boy taking their friend's side rather than their younger sister.
Their little sister, absolutely. Yeah. So
or maybe is she her older sister? I think they were like 12, 10, 8. Or maybe he's old.
You're mixing it up. Cecile and Luca are, I think, 2 years apart. 18 and 16 when this story happens. Daniel's
they're
18.
Like 4.
Yeah, but you're thinking of Sam and Ellen and Isaac. I got a little mixed up because she kept calling Sam her little brother.
Yeah.
But Isaac is also her little brother.
Yeah, that's what I was like. But it's like
because she's the oldest.
Little brother.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's what we, for
youngest
Mirabella
brother.
going up, she's the youngest. We have Big Big, that's the oldest. And then we have Little Big, and that's the middle one.
There you go. That works.
Little Big never stuck. But we still call Alexander Big Big. So another disturbing thing that I watched that complements this, the rape culture that drives a woman it's so insane that she murders 4 people?
It was a little excessive. I'm not gonna justify what she did, and I also don't want to minimize the fact that she was a victim and terrible things happened to her.
Yes.
But I'm like, you really need to murder all these people to make your point?
Yeah.
And Ellen was completely right in that, like, you could have told the media. But she's like, no, they wouldn't have believed me. I'm like, well, did you try?
Well, that brings me to the other upsetting thing that I watched this week, which is it's on Showtime. It is a documentary about Bill Cosby by W. Kamau Brown. It's We Need to Talk About Cosby, 4-part miniseries. The count stops at 68 women.
Yeah.
He's been doing it since the early 60s.
Wow.
Till present time.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, it's a recent,
And his wife supported him all these years. I don't
can't
get that.
Figure out his wife.
But then she comes from a time where women's main support came around a man. And if she didn't have him, would she be able to support herself?
I think that she could be an example of gaslighting. Because she is no pushover. Like, you get that from his comedy.
Yeah.
Like, my favorite bit is when he gives his kids chocolate cake and she has a conniption. She's no pushover. I think she substituted what is reality.
You probably.
So and you get so disillusioned. There's all these people around him. Like, Felicia Rashad still says, it's great you're out of jail.
Yeah.
Like...
Come on, people.
Or there have been other women who stand with him.
And I don't get that. I just don't get that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's easier than dealing with the idea that someone you knew closely could have been such a horrible person. it's easier just to support them and to gaslight these other women's experience. I think maybe as far as his wife goes, these other women admitting that these other women might have a point was a threat to her own security.
Sanity, even, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think she necessarily denies that she knew it was happening. I think she just, had to block it out in order to continue the reality that she wished she was living in.
But if she hadn't stood by him, I'm not saying it's her fault. He is completely to blame for not keeping it in his pants.
But it still puzzles me.
Yeah. But supporting that still lets it keep going.
Well, I think she just didn't acknowledge it. Like, there are other sociopaths who have led normal lives, compartmentalized normal lives, and been doing awful things, like BTK. Like, he had a normal, like, I'm a church guy.
Yeah.
I have a family life for decades. And he was doing bad stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, it's plausible to me that she didn't know. But now that it's out.
To still.
Yeah. And so, like, they're part of, I mean, you guys should watch it. It's nightmare inducing. Okay. I won't lie about that. When you're done watching it, I won't spoil how the auteur ends it. But, because there's quite a few men in it who say they still think he's funny. Like, Seinfeld says, I can divorce his actions from his comedy.
Of course you can, because you're a guy. It's
also,
not happening
Jerry
to you.
Seinfeld has a sketchy past as well.
Yeah.
So it doesn't.
That's what, because Colbert, it's an interview with Colbert and Seinfeld, and Colbert's like, I can't divorce these two things, and Seinfeld's like, oh, of course I can.
Well,
so
because it's easy for you.
I don't make jokes about Hitler and Nazis anymore. But what if we found comedy tapes by Hitler? Like, and found out that he was hilarious. Could we all sit around and laugh?
Yeah, no.
I don't think so.
We don't need to laugh at the jokes anymore. We don't need to play the records anymore. We don't need to stream the albums anymore. We don't need to watch the comedy specials. We don't need to watch the show. And also, I don't really miss it because I can't in good conscience watch it without feeling icky.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like, how can you?
That's true.
How could I sit down and watch the Cosby Show and not be creeped out?
I cannot. But I do miss what it was.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that.
But and this puts it in a real perspective, like the community he represents, that what they lost.
Yeah.
Because
it was a groundbreaking show.
Yes.
That showed successful Black people and helped break that negative stereotype that was held by supremacy.
It goes through his whole career, actually, and juxtaposes the times when he was representing as just a person of value and excellence versus what was on television against it, representing Black men. It's a very well done documentary, but it gave me nightmares. So Karin found this cool thing that brings up like the key symbols and the objects that kept coming up, but I just closed it.
Don't you find it again?
I think yeah, I got it. It's just your browser. So water is a reoccurring symbol of danger in the novel. Sam dies falling into a natural pool. Ellen is attacked by Mark Haler in the ocean. Which I also wanted to know more about that guy, too.
Yeah, like maybe that is connected to what happens at the end.
Well, I was wondering if it is him.
But I was also wondering if it was going to be connected to that in this novel.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what is the Haler case? I would like to know more about it.
No, it's just the thing that is her...
It's why she's broken.
Yeah, exactly.
But not knowing it...
Her yips.
Not knowing it, I didn't really believe she was a cop. Because they didn't go enough into her experience as a cop. I thought, was she a rookie? This was her first year or something?
Yeah.
Or it's like, she seems more like the Miss Marple kind of detective rather than me believing that she's a cop.
Which might have been the revealing of her.
Okay.
Of her, like, we don't know how far into her career she was until we, like, find out that she has, like, connections that are good enough that this guy's going to do an illegal... unencryption of files.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's close enough, with her team. Ellen is pushed into the plunge pool by a stalker, which is the guy on the train, we find out later.
Right.
And the final confrontation between Ellen, Lucas, and Cecile takes place in the pool as the three fight for the knife. Any other interesting times you saw water come up?
Yeah, I can't think of a specific example other than the ones that you've already named. But it was a pretty obvious theme I saw coming around again.
And which I think is just be interesting to read these and then comment on them. There's no questions in them. Necklace. The necklace is a symbol of the past. Ellen always wears Sam's necklace to remind her of him. In the end, she breaks the necklace and uses it as a weapon to stop Cecile.
I felt like there wasn't enough mention of the necklace and it being significant to her earlier on for it to be so significant at the end.
Right. Yeah. Just like a simple mention earlier of like, oh, she adjusted her necklace.
And it might have been in there, but it wasn't obvious enough.
Yeah.
Because she had that nervous tick of fiddling with it more often than I would be. I would be aware of it in the periphery
instead
of
Isaac being like your necklace is special to you. Mm-hmm. Oh, because that's the necklace. We find that necklace that was Lore's. And that's what makes him say, like, she would have never left that behind.
Yeah.
Like your necklace. I'm like, oh, she's wearing a necklace. I had no idea.
Yeah. That one didn't land.
Bracelets. The bracelets are a symbol of connection. The numbers on the bracelets link the German psychiatric patients with the current murders. I thought it was weird how they were used.
Yeah, I did not understand the symbolism of the boxes. And...
like, why the fingers?
Yeah, I don't know.
She never explained why the fingers were cut off.
Like,
ever.
I mean,
just as a mutilation, I guess, but
it's not like that really ties to the horrors that were perpetrated to these women in the past. It would have been. I felt like there could have been, I don't know what it would be, but a different symbol that would have represented it better than, like, why a finger and why the bracelet.
I know. I thought there was one point when she was looking at the pictures of the bodies that she noticed that they were missing fingers. It was something
I think that is
so this is where I had to really catch myself, because seeing these German doctors mutilate women for the sake of just, well, I wonder what happens if I cut off a finger, blah, blah, blah. Reminded me so much of Nazi doctors in concentration camps.
Yeah, they didn't spring from nowhere.
Yeah.
No, but she didn't mention that. It just is what came to my head and my own connection. And I don't know if that was intentional.
That's why I went looking for more history behind that.
Yeah, like, what are they doing?
It sounded plausible.
She could have supplied that.
Yeah, and it sounded plausible that this is a thing. Like,
she made a point of saying that company was in Germany.
Right.
And even though they're not, that I felt like there should have been just a little bit more hand-holding for me.
Yeah. No, I really wish, as gruesome as it was, but that's the, like, you know.
I needed reasons for that gruesomeness.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Some more grounding.
The symbolism was strange. Because I didn't know what it symbolized.
The masks are a symbol of fear and power. The doctors in the photographs are wearing masks in the photographs. The doctors in the photographs are wearing masks in the photographs. Okay. They take with the female patients. Cecile and Margot take the power by, I guess, wearing those masks. It's a dun dun dun. There's no lips.
The masks were creepy.
The masks were very upsetting.
I didn't like that. I didn't like I thought the beginning of the novel was the scariest.
Yes. When Adele is getting chased.
And when at the very beginning, when what's his name?
Oh, Daniel. Yeah, that was good.
Is also like he's going to his car. Good. Like, I was like, ooh, this is spooky.
Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah, I thought that was.
You're right.
Scary.
Like, maybe it's the middle that kind of got bogged down.
But also the end was kind of
the climax was good. The wrap up was bad.
I don't even think the climax was that exciting. Okay. Like, we're fighting in the pool over a knife, and then it was over. I'm like, there was a lot of talking. You know, there was a lot of Cecile telling us exactly what her big plan was, like, monologuing. I'm like, okay, like every other bad guy in every other thing.
The villain has to tell you their plan.
Right.
Like, it's not satisfying unless you are afraid of them.
Yeah. Like, the least redeemable person gets saved, too. Because Luca does seem like an asshole.
Well, he gets what's coming to him, too, because at the end, it's he's being investigated for, you know, all the things.
And then I'm like, what about this hotel now? Like, is there a conglomerate running it now, or are all these people out of work now, too?
Yeah.
Well,
more victims.
The townspeople never wanted it because it was a bad place to begin with, and trying to... Okay, but didn't you think Luca was a little creepy? And let's have boxes with all the torture devices because we want to pay homage to it.
Oh, that's titillating. That's gonna draw people.
Yeah,
in.
And it wasn't so torturous,
No, that's true. Not as much as having bloody fingers in the boxes.
But like when Adele is getting prepped for surgery, and they're like, "All right, are you ready to begin?"
Yeah.
Oh God,
that was really scary. I didn't like that. I mean, I wish there were more of that because it would have made it more exciting. But those parts were hard for me to listen because I don't like scary things.
That's why I was like,
I don't like this. I don't like it. I'm creeped out. I don't like it.
I like that there was a tunnel, but it's like all of a sudden there's a tunnel. It's like, really? Nobody.
These tunnels were used back in the day. It's like, okay, a convenient tunnel, got it.
How convenient? It just wasn't believable. All of a sudden, this is I mean, it was almost like the Phantom of the Opera cavern feeling. It's like, how convenient.
There's a tunnel in. There's the same kind of tunnel used for the same thing in the Cure for Wellness. Yes. I was like, ooh, they're hiding those bodies.
So maybe not having ever seen or The Shining, other than the little bits here and there.
I love The Shining.
First, I read a review that connected this to The Shining.
No.
And before I read this book, and I'm like, no.
I love The Shining.
Yeah.
I've seen the original movie. I've seen the made-for-TV miniseries.
Did you read the book?
I have not read the book. This was not.
I'm shocked to hear you say you love this movie. This makes me so happy.
I like some scary movies. Yeah. That one I don't think is too scary because I know what's going to happen.
That's the key for you.
The way that this book is marketed is like, it's like The Shining, but with more people. It's like, well, not really.
No.
Like, that was like a tagline I saw on like Amazon or something. It's like The Shining. Yeah, it's like.
Maybe we saw the same tagline, and it really wasn't.
Yeah.
I think it's a review on the cover of the book.
It's something like that, and it's like, I think
it's kind of a false selling point, I think, to use that verbiage.
They're stuck in a hotel. That's about it.
Yeah.
They're snowed in a hotel.
There's
that's
the
about
honesty.
as far as, I mean, murder.
As far as it goes, yeah.
I'm looking for, there was a line in this review of this movie that's not connected to this book. It's just the same setting. Because you said it's like the Phantom of the Opera. Never mind. That thought's not panning.
Okay. Well, do you have any other questions?
No.
Or have we pretty much covered it?
We've covered it.
Okay.
I have a suggestion for people who want something that the book should have been. Okay. There is a series that I read by Madeleine Rube called Asylum.
Mm.
And it reminds me a lot of Sea Sushi. Because that's Cal State University Channel Islands.
Seasaki, yeah.
Or I've also heard it called Sea Sushi is a little nicer.
Yes,
where it's a college that used to be an asylum.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, all right.
So, but that has got all the creep factor that this should have had. So that's by Madeleine Rue. There's another one by Anya Allen called Dollhouse is the first of a trio. That's also, and then if you just want a single book that has that Snowden in the mountains creepy, Blake Crouch has Recursion.
All right, Blake Crouch is super creepy.
He's super creepy, but he's super good. So if you don't want to commit to a series, I went from the biggest series to the middle series to the single book.
And I also like on Audible and in this one of the places I got questions from, it's recommending Lucy Foley's books too. The Guest House, and there was another one called like The Last One There or something. Okay, I found the sentence I was looking for this movie. It's the sort of movie that can only be described by talking about other things. It's like Crimson Peak meets Mr. Robot meets Shutter Island meets Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, I like Shutter Island.
Yeah, Shutter Island's a better movie, but it's all those
and
things.
Gaslight, yeah.
If you did a mashup of all those movies,
that's what that movie is. That's intriguing.
Cool. Guest houses?
No, the stupid movie, The Cure for Wellness.
Oh,
I think you should watch it because it's a creepy movie.
Okay.
But and Jason Isaacs is always good.
Yeah.
Especially when he's fat.
Which which he usually is.
It's not going to be a surprise that he's the bad guy.
He seems like such a nice guy in real life.
I know, like when you hear him interviewed, or like especially talking about the Harry Potter movies, he's like when he scares what's his face, Malfoy's
Tom Felton.
Thank you.
Yeah,
he's like,
they call each other like dad and son. Yeah, it's like very cute. I'm like, I like Jason Isaacs.
When he like waxes his cane or something on, and he just barely misses hitting him, and he's like, I'm so sorry, darling.
Yeah,
like, oh, Jason, you're so cute. Karen, go ahead, Karen.
For those of us who loved My Heart is a Chainsaw, there is a sequel coming out in July.
All right.
Good to know.
For those who didn't, just put this on the shelf and toss it aside.
I mean, that book gave me a stomachache, but I'm worried about her.
Yeah,
I know. That's kind of what I want to find out in the next book.
Well, I'll tell Kaity who's on the train.
Okay.
For this sequel.
Yeah.
You tell me if she's doing okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just need a book report from both of you. Anybody else read anything good?
I did not read anything else this month because
I
I kept putting off, like, I'm going to pick up the real book.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up the real book. Nope.
I finished the book I was reading when we were doing our last episode, which was like a different, much better romance novel. And it's called One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, and it's a little spicy, so if you don't like the steam, then take it with a grain of salt. But it was a very well written book, and I really enjoyed the characters and everything. So that's the only thing that I have also read.
I like the steam. I started a new book this week. So good.
Mm.
Octavia E. Butler. I know I was supposed to read her books. Like, everybody should be reading her books.
Mm-hmm.
She's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
She's fantastic.
Which book did you read?
I'm starting Dawn, which is book 1 of the Xenogenesis trilogy.
Ooh.
It's flipping fantastic. Yeah, it's really good.
Cool.
So, I mean, highly recommended. Very lauded author when she was alive. But who knew that she was so good? Because I've tried, like, Ursula Le Guin is another female sci-fi writer.
Not so good.
Not my cup of tea. And I gave it quite a while. It was at least that book was not for me. I can't remember which one it was. But Octavia E. Butler, amazing. I'm going to read a lot of her, I think.
Well, I'm sure Karin has a list.
I know, because I was reading a lot, and then you said when we were recording the other podcast, oh, you got 2 weeks. I'm like, I better start. So I did get this one done in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so I read if you're trying to continue some of the romance and some of the sad, hard parts, but it's good. It's called An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. That one was really good. I don't want to go too much.
An American Marriage.
An American Marriage.
I had enough of that, just lightly touching on the poor neglected husband in our last one. I don't know if I can go on that journey again.
This is not. No.
Okay.
It's not the. They're both on equal footing.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Then I kind of got on a big kick of more Stephen Graham Jones. So I read Night of the Mannequins, which was a bunch of short stories. It was really creepy and kind of psychotic, and I don't know that I enjoyed it as much as the others.
Did it give you a stomachache?
No, I don't get a stomachache from that. I did finish How Long Till Black Future Month, and I love every bit of it. I wish I could just there's so many, each story was better than the next. It was great. You got these sound bites. Mapping the now that was by N.K. Jemisin. I did go on into Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones, and that was really good. Interior being like the brain and all that. Mm-hmm. And then on a completely different note, because one of our regulars recommended Louise Penny's books. It's more crime novel, but kind of like the small town. Something happens, someone dies, and how we're gonna figure it out.
Murder, She Wrote.
Kind of, but not sappy. Okay. Called by Louise Penny, and the first one, it started with her first book, Still Life. Still Life being a painting or a little vignette, and it had some great twists.
There's some core fans of hers in our regulars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I finished that one, and I'm already started the second book because I want more. it's not a continuation of each is its own thing, but you get introduced to a lot of the main core characters in the first book. And then other people come into this. This town in Quebec is so small that even on a map that has all the smallest towns, it doesn't show up. People are like, I'm not even sure my GPS will find it.
That's like all the places when you go up into the Yosemite area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I know those little towns.
Yeah.
Fish camp.
I know about them too, unfortunately. Except I always like Strawberry. Strawberry was that one amused me. But otherwise, I don't find them amusing.
Well, it's Karen's turn to pick. What are we reading next?
We're reading a book called The Other Passenger by Louise Candlish. So this is the description. It all happened so quickly. One day you're living the dream, commuting to work by ferry with your charismatic neighbor Kit in the seat beside you. The next, Kit hasn't turned up for the boat and his wife Malia has reported him missing. When you get off at your stop, the police are waiting. Another passenger saw you and Kit arguing on the boat home the night before, and the police say you had a reason to want him dead. You protest. You and Kit are friends. Ask Malia. She'll vouch for you. And who exactly is this other passenger pointing the finger? And what do you know about what do they know about your lives? No, whatever danger followed you home last night, you are innocent, totally innocent. Aren't you?
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Sounds spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is going to be our next book. She's described as the queen of the sucker punch twist.
Oh,
so I'm looking forward to
now I'm going to be waiting for the twist.
Don't tell me there's a twist. All right, cool.
If it didn't have some kind of twist, it would just be boring.
That's true.
Anyway, so it's one of Crime Read's most anticipated crime books of 2021.
All right.
Sweet.
So cool. By Louise Candlish. Like candle-ish, but with no E.
Okie dokie. Well, we will meet you guys next month for that. And in the meantime, we hope you enjoyed this episode. And you can enjoy our regular podcast episode. Comes out the first Monday of the month. And we will also have new classes if you catch this, if you're listening to this, currently-ish, when that new episode comes out too. So at the beginning of the month of April, there will be new classes, new podcasts, and I think that's about it. So we'll see you guys then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Strings Unraveled is a production of Strings and Things Studio, with Anne Leckervin-Cazzoli, Kaity Von Rader-Fraker, and Karin Mometh. Recorded and edited by Kaity Von Rader-Fraker. Find us online at stringsandthingsstudio.com or on Facebook or Instagram at Strings and Things Studio. You can email us at stringsandthingsinfo@gmail.com.